Tonight, the dark and gruesome truth behind one of rock's greatest themes.
Glenn had a well-earned reputation for being the most dangerous man in show business.
A vision betrayed.
The biggest violence of them all, of course, was done to my song.
An offering paid in blood.
It's a bit hard to put into words. It was a very dramatic day.
And a shocking transformation.
6 words. That's all it took. For the course of music itself to be changed.
Secret legends of rock. Secret legends of rock. The deepest, darkest secrets of rock, straight from the mouths of the legends who lived them. Secret legends
Took the beer bottle and threw it against the wall and smashed it.
of rock. In 1984, rock was the pulsing current inside our daily shock. Every day brought a new anthem and a new threat, new danger, and new salvation. The future had come early, and it was scary as hell. And as the world spun faster into madness, its people needed to escape. And in 1984, escape had one destination: hilarious and sexy location-based crime dramas. Paramount Pictures bet big that summer, handing its hottest script to an up-and-coming comedian in his big screen debut. But like all action comedies, the film needed a theme song, with the message of the film directly in its title, and the genre set squarely to rock. With everything on the line, only one name in music mattered: Harold Faltermeyer.
He's done the arrangement for film soundtracks like Midnight Express and American Gigolo. Here's Harold Faltermeyer with Axel F. Wait a minute.
I find it hard to believe that anyone would not know me, but if they don't, if they've been living in a rock, in a cave, somewhere on Pluto for the last several decades, I'm Harold Faltermeyer. I presume you are here because you want to hear about the Beverly Hills Cop and the song from the film that was called The Heat. We'll just call it The Heat for now.
Faltermeyer worked score jobs alone, but for a theme song, he'd need a partner. Only one drummer/producer/songwriter made sense. Someone who had already produced Billy Idol's Billy Idol and written the theme song from Flashdance, Keith Forsey.
The actual process of writing the song was very fulfilling and edifying as an artist, as a musician. We knew it was for a film, and called Beverly Hills something, and the title was still incomplete when we'd received the assignment, so I wasn't sure. It's like Beverly Hills, all right, fine. We sat down and in Harry's flat, and we honestly banged it out in less than an afternoon, probably 25 minutes.
Faltermeyer's vision was unexpectedly cool.
The version of the song, as I initially envisioned it, was that it would be the heat is off. Kaput. Off. The heat is off. I think he had some sort of concept of American climate that was perhaps a little misinformed. And so I think that he thought like heat being off would be a very good thing. Can you sit there in your house and think of a more beautiful turn of phrase than to say the heat is off? It doesn't need a musical accompaniment almost. It is so perfect. The heat is off. It wasn't really thought through. I just think he liked the idea of just cooling the temperature a little bit. You have to remember as well, this is the 1980s. Like, Vietnam is still very much in people's imagination.
Faltermeyer sent Forsey across the Atlantic, hand-carrying his digital master on CD-ROM. Through some Hollywood magic, Eagles legend Glenn Frey had agreed to a one-day recording contract. Faltermeyer's heat became an afterthought as the studio buzzed into panic.
Glenn did have a bit of a reputation for saltiness.
The only way you could describe it was a sadistic, violent banshee.
Cambodia had worked with Frey in the 70s. He and Forsey knew the rules.
There were just certain things you just would not do around Glenn. One of the things was that he absolutely could not stand anyone talking to him. And part of that is that he tried to make meaningful eye contact. It's like, that was another no.
Depending on the day of the week and what position the moon was in, Glenn would use a combination of Jeet Kune Do, which is Bruce Lee's distinct style, and what he described as Detroit curb stomp. He would do both, just with one or two fingers. It was astonishing.
Secret legends
Took the beer bottle and threw it against the wall and smashed it.
of rock.
Glenn had a well-earned reputation for being the most dangerous man in show business. So we're all just sort of waiting around to collect our paychecks and deny being a part of this fucking disaster that was sure to happen.
Frey's contract included a wood chipper to be made ready before his arrival.
That's an urban legend. That is an urban legend that happens to be completely accurate. There was a wood chipper and it was sitting right outside the studio.
He made sure that every session musician got a good look at it before he stepped into the studio to lay down the backing track.
He'd crank it up. He knew what he was doing. He was like, if people got a little too comfortable, he would turn it on.
So it was almost fair play if and when you botched a take or played a note that was not in what Glenn would call harmonic alliance with what we were doing, or in some cases just wearing the color green.
Glenn is nothing if not persistent.
As wind of Frey's approach blew from the south, the studio cleared of any non-essential personnel. All those left behind averted their eyes, with one shining exception.
The first time that I met him was that day in the studio, and I had no prior knowledge of the man, but he was dazzling, I assure you that.
Delight had been hired as a studio assistant only days earlier.
In my early 20s, I was part of a very happening music studio recording scene in Los Angeles. It was somewhere in the mid-80s, that's for sure. Probably 1984, I don't know, I'd have to go back in time. It's a Huey Lewis reference. And the news. One of the things you do when you're working in the musical studio environment is getting coffee. And when I say getting coffee, I mean rolling doobies, spliffs, joints, long loads, high rollers, heavy duties, anything really for the band. That was largely what I did, huddled behind amplifiers, rolling spliffs. At one point they called me Jack the Spliffer.
Before the door opened, Glenn Fry had arrived. He wasted no time. His contract made no mention of a second take. As the session began, Tommy's eyes strayed to the music stand set center stage. Faltermeyer's lyrics had gone unseen. The heat was still off.
It was more aggressive. It was the heat is off, you know. Boom, boom.
I wanted a simple, pared-down version of the song because I didn't want to distract from the brilliance of the concept of heat being off.
I had heard the backing track and the bass, which was ripping, and I was no musical prodigy. I was not a musician at all. I had hoped only one day to move into middle management in the studio. Just some way I could help music be spread.
I think there was some sort of whispers of concern about the main sort of impetus of the song.
I mean, the heat is off on. I didn't care. I just wanted the bass not to bleed into the mids, if you know what I mean.
The heat is off. The heat is off. Really. Really.
The song originally came in and it was, they're saying, heat is off. And none of us knew anything about film or what was intended, but we knew, for God's sake, it couldn't be heat is off. It couldn't match what the tone or whatever the song was going to be. So it felt wrong, but nobody had the courage to say nothing because nobody would say anything to Glenn.
Off! Is it not working or nothing's wrong anymore?
It doesn't need a musical accompaniment almost. It is so perfect. The heat is off.
It was dog shit. It meant nothing. Obviously, Harold had not read the script.
Of those who bore witness to what would come, only Wheeler and Cambodia remain.
I was not in the studio that day. Thank God. No, I was not there. Yeah, I was in the studio that day, and you may be surprised because you don't hear any woodwinds on the finished track of Heat Is On. But I was someone Glenn used to insist that there be a flautist in the studio, just for emergencies, I guess, just break glass in case of flute.
Obviously, we had the whole Beverly Hills Cop editing suite in the same room, so it was already weird conditions.
Shooting the music video for a motion picture theme song while simultaneously recording the song and editing the film itself was classic Paramount.
There was a flautist hovering in the corner. There were other faces too. I don't remember all of them, but I remember Glenn stepping up to the microphone, about to deliver.
The nation had seen its share of heroes speak truth to power. But nothing like this.
I stood up and strode to him, which, as I pieced together, no one had ever done. But I was compelled. It made no sense.
As soon as he walked toward it, we cut the tape just because, well, we'd seen what happened when you interrupted Glenn or even looked him in the face. We had mopped that up, I'll put it that way.
I'd never seen anything approaching that level of courage in my entire life. And my heart was in my throat.
I rose up and I said, Glenn, stressing the second N, what if the heat is on?
legends of rock.
I mean, we were all thinking it. We were definitely thinking it. But Tommy. What on earth? Tommy was the only one who actually went and said it.
What if the heat is on? That's all I remember. That moment between he and I.
The events of that day affected us all very, very deeply, but none more than Tommy.
At that moment, Glenn Fry unleashed torn hellfire on that poor creature that forever changed who it was, how it knew itself.
Whew, that was, there's some sights you can't unsee. I ended up witnessing some of the worst brutality that any human being has ever had to experience. I can only imagine.
Fry's signature refrain sounded out with every blow.
Tommy persisted in staying alive despite Glenn's efforts. And I think that sort of pluck eventually sort of won Glenn over.
It was better. I mean, that was the thing. But that meant everything had to change. That meant we needed new words. This put Glenn in a place where he had to accept someone else's superiority, an idea from without.
I remember nothing from that moment on until months later. When I woke up, I came to, as it were. A bright, sunny, very comfortable hospital bed. Feeling different, strung up with tension wires and so on, but very much alive, and kicking, as it were, or developing the ability to kick. No one needed to tell me what happened. There was a radio in the convalescent ward. And in fact, it was the same weekend that I came to that Beverly Hills Cop was released on the big screen, and with it, Glenn's song.
Faltermeyer hadn't factored in a December release. The heat was on, everywhere.
Yeah, sometimes popularity is just only a measure of how much slop you can feed a pig.
The song would reach number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100 and become the unofficial second anthem of America. Faltermeyer and Forsey would win the Grammy for Best Soundtrack Album.
Very surprised to find out it was about law enforcement.
And Beverly Hills Cop would ultimately become the highest-grossing R-rated film of all time.
I don't want to be a bitter person. I don't want to say like I see as sour grapes, but there's just certain things that I cannot abide, and one of those is like the absolute betrayal of an artistic vision. When it comes to music, music is my life, and I will not compromise. And it is only, I was grateful that I wasn't there because I didn't get to see the horrific violence that Glenn Fry supposedly wrought on the people that were there. I did not witness it or have it done to me, but also I was not there to preserve the original version of my songs that I wanted to have in the film. None of us are the same after that. It's just a bit more tangible, I guess, with Tommy.
Through a generous private grant, Tommy Delight was moved to a scientific research facility to be closely monitored and protected from the shocking truth.
Tommy does not know that before the incident, Tommy was a young woman named Tabitha. I'm no scientist, but this is how it's been explained to me, that some of the impacts were so powerful that it rattled the helices and transformed them from a 5'3" blonde woman from Kansas into a 6'3" man from England.
In other words, Glenn hit him so hard that he sent him forward in time and changed his gender. That was the price. Just of speaking your mind to Glenn Fry.
I wasn't told how I came to be there, but I was told that my body would heal, and with it my spirit, so I set to, and when you've got Glenn Fry as the soundtrack for your personal healing and recovery, and he's singing something that you had a little something to do with, if you know what I mean, life starts looking brighter every day. It has become my mantra, if you will, as they say in India, those who meditate. The heat is on. It's on the streets.
You know, and we just never had the heart to tell him. We just accept Tommy for who he is, and nobody even says Tabitha, if you know what I'm saying.
You think it was worth it?
Yes, the song was great. So, and the film won several monies.
It's a cosmic bargain, man. The song is great. Tommy is what he is, and the rest of us have been forever changed.
I don't remember everything about this. I do know the heat is on. I will always know this. And the courage that it took to stand up to Glenn Fry and tell him so. In a way, perhaps the heat was on him.